Hi great people, you are welcome back to Physique Fashion House channel. My name is Fola. We appreciate as many that has been subscribing to this channel, and if you have not subscribed, do well to subscribe today. Thank you. Today I'll teach you how to make a off-shoulder princess dance bustier. Let's go. Now, to make our off-shoulder princess dance bustier, this is the pattern draft we need. I'll be working with I'll be stopping this project on the waistline, which is a 17 inches. And for this measurement you are seeing here, this is the upper chest line, which is a 4 inches. So I measure 4 inches up. So this line of 4 inches will be our upper chest line. 8 inches as our chest line, which will serve as a bust line. Also, chest line is still a bust line. 10 and a half, that's the bust point. And then 13 and a half is the under bust line we are working with. And the 17 is a waistline, which is also half length. So now, this is a 4 inches. I measure 4 inches here, measure it down and connect. That is our breast apart line or bust pan. So now the next thing to do now is to create the cup for our princess dart. And to achieve that, the first thing we have to do is to measure 2 inches to this side. I'll measure 2 inches here on my under bust line. 2 inches. I do the same thing on my waistline. 2 inches. I connect it. Then the next thing is to connect my bust point to the under bust line by using my French cuff, just like this. Yeah. Then I take care of this place so that it won't be too sharp. So you use your French cuff to achieve this as well. Because this place ought not to be sharp. So that's the way it's going to be. So the next thing is I'll just create my neckline straight up. And the wideness of the neck I'll be using, because it's off shoulder, I'll be using 6 inches as the wideness of my neck, 6 inches. Then the depth of my neck is going to be 7 inches. So always remember that you have come up with 4 inches. So when you are placing your tape measure vertically, always remember that you have 4 inches up here. So the depth of my neck will be 7 inches. So then I connect it. I'll be working with a sweetheart neck. Yes. So our neckline has been created. So the next thing to do is to get our bust. The bust measurement on our chest line. This is chest line or bust line. We get our bust measurement there. The bust we are working with is 36. You divide 36 by 4. It gives us 9. Then use 6 inches. Use 3 inches as a seam allowance. So to be on safer side, it's always good to use 3 inches of this bust line as on your bust measurement. Use 3 inches as a seam allowance. Then the next thing to do is to get the waist measurement. The waist I'm working with is 28. 28 divided by 4 give me 7. So I mark 7 on the waistline. Then I replace these 2 inches. These 2 inches here, which is the dart that I will be cutting out. I replace it 2 inches. Then I use 2.5 as my seam allowance on the waistline. Then I'm good to connect it to the bust. Yes. So the next thing I do now is to create, I want to create the armhole now. And to achieve that, I will just connect, I will use my French cuff to connect from this point, the wideness of my neck, and straight to the bust measurement. Just, yeah. So the next thing I will do now is to get the midpoint from, this distance from here to this end. I will know what I'm having there. I'm having 7 inches. When I place my tape this way, I'm having 7 inches. So I just get the midpoint. This is the midpoint. Yes. So on that midpoint, so when I place my tape, I'll place my tape and come up with 1.5 from this armhole. I come up with a 1.5, just like this. I mark it. Then the next thing to do is to connect this to my, to the bust point to create the cup, or to finally draw out my princess dart. So I connect it. So I ensure that this place is not too sharp. Yes. Just like that. So the next thing is to create my armhole now. So I connect from this point to my bust line. Yes. So the next thing to do now, in order for us not to have one funny excess in this armhole, so you note that when you are drafting for the off-shoulder princess cut that will be having sleeve, so what you do is that you come up here. You come front here on this line. You come front by 1. Then I will connect it to this to create a new dart that I will have to cut off. If you are doing the off-shoulder princess dart that is going to have all these cup sleeve also, so you will have to come to the front by 1, come to the back by 1. So but for this one is having, the one I'm trying to create is having a normal sleeve. So this one, I'll come front by 1. So I just connect it to my bust point, just like this. So to create a new dart, so which I will have to cut away. Yes. Yeah. So this is the pattern drafting of our off-shoulder princess darts Bustier. So I will have to cut it out now. So this place in this upper chest that we come up by 4 to create our upper chest line. Note that you can do 3.5. You can do 3.5, even 4.5. So you do in between 3 to 4.5. So I just choose to use 4 inches. So, always remember that your fabric is on fold. So you are going to join it together by 1/2 inch. You start joining from the down parts. You join with 1/2 inch. Now, to draft the back cut of our off shoulder princess that Bustier. So all you need to do is to get the waistline or your half length, which is 17 inches. And always remember we came up by 4, which is going to serve our chest, our upper chest line. So this is 4 inches. I draw the line. Then 8 inches is our bust line or chest line. That is it. And then this line is the zipper allowance. 1/4, 1/4, then I connect. This is my zipper allowance line. So now I get my bust measurement. The best bust measurement we are working with is 36. We divide it by 9. We divide it by 4, we get 9. So we measure 9 on this line. 9 inches. So this time around, you can use 1.5, you can use 2 inches for your, seam allowance. I'll be using 1.5 as a seam allowance. So the next thing is to get the waist. The waist we are working with is 28. If you divide 28 by 4, it gives us 7. But before you get that 7 on this line, the first thing you have to do at the back here is that the breast part we are working with, you can do it in 2 ways. So I will explain the 2 ways for you. Is that you get the breast part we are working with is 7. We divided it by 2 is 3. We get 3.5. I mean the front cut. Then we had half an inch to make 4. So you get that 4 first. You get that 4 inches. You mark it. Then up. I mean you now measure up. You measure up 5 to 6 inches. 6 inches. Let's measure 6 inches. You mark it. So the next thing is that you now come to the left by half on this 4 inches that you have initially marked. You come to the left by half, you come to the right by half, then you connect it up here. So that is to form your darts at the back. You connect it. Then the next thing you will do is that you measure the measurement of your waist, or the waist we are working with is 28. You divide it by 4, it gives us 7. Then you now get 7 on this line, 7 inches. Then this 1 inch you replace it, 1 inch. Then 2 inches as our seam allowance. So beg your pardon, let's use 2 inches as our seam allowance. I make it 2 in this bust also, because it's princess cut, we want to form at the back here. So in order not to have a shortage of fabric, it's good to use 2 inches as your seam allowance. So I tell you, you can use 2 methods to get this your waist dart. If you don't do it this way, another thing you can do is to divide that your 28, the 28 which is the waist measurement we are working with. That 28 you divide it by 8. When you divide 28 by 8, it gives us a 3.5. So what you do is that you measure 3.5 first, then you now measure 1 inch as your dart, then you measure 3.5 again. You can see, if you look at this thing closely, if you divide your waist by 8, 28 divided by 8, it gives us a 3.5. So what you do on this waistline is that you now measure 3.5. That 3.5, you measure it first. Then you can see from here to here is 3.5. You now measure that of 1 inch. You mark your dart. You now measure 3.5 again. You can see when you now measure another 3.5, it ends here. Then you now get your seam allowance, which is 2 inches. So the dart that you have gotten here, 1 inch dart you have gotten here, you now divide it into 2 on the midpoint. You mark the midpoint, then you now connect it just like this. So you will arrive at the same thing. So that is for the waist. So the next thing to do now is to take care of our armhole and the wideness of our neck. And the wideness of the neck we are working with is 6 inches. You know, it's off shoulder. 6 inches. You mark your 6 inches here. Then for the back, you can choose to come down as you like. I mean the depth of your neck. So for this project, we will be coming down just by 2 from this upper chest. So the depth of our neck is going to be 6 inches. We mark 6 inches here, and the neckline we'll be using round neck as our neckline here. So you just place your French cuff just like this, then you connect. Having done that, so the next thing to do is to connect, to get the armhole now. So you place your cuff just like this to create an armhole. Yeah. Having done that, just the way you did in the front, you now get the midpoint from this wideness of your neck to this end. You get the midpoint. You place your tape. We are having 6.5, and the midpoint, the half of 6.5 is 3/4. You mark 3/4 here. Yeah. So having done that, so from this line now, you now come up by 1. You mark it. So now we want to create our princess dart now. So you now place your French cuff like so, then you connect to this your dart just like this. So you make sure it's not looking too sharp. Yes. So in the front we come front by 1 inch. So at the back here you come front by 3/4. That is 0.75. Then you connect with your French cuff again. Yes. So the next thing is then we connect the bust to the waist. Remember, your fabric is on fold. Then the next thing to do is to shape your center back. So all you need to do here is on this line, the zipper line, you just come out with a 1/4 of an inch, just like this. Then you place your tape, your ruler. So where this is 17 inches. So that is our half length. So mark the very beginning here, because this is where your ruler is going to hit from this point. So you don't need to draw to that, but that's the way you don't place your ruler to end A. No, you consider that 4 inches that you come up with. Yes, this is it. So the next thing is for us to cut it out now. Oh, beg your pardon, I've not created the armhole. let me connect the armhole. Then you connect your armhole from this into this. Now, the next thing we want to do now is to draft the sleeve of our off-shoulder princess that bustier. So, and to achieve that, all we need to do is to I'll be using this length. I'll be using 10 inches as our sleeve length. This is 11 inches. The remaining 1 inch is the allowance. You know, the seam allowance for both up and the down parts, half. So now the round arm we are working with, the round arm and the arm circumference, the upper arm circumference we are working with is 12. You divide 12 by 2, it gives us a 6. Then you add 1 inch seam allowance, making 7. So you get 7 inches on this on your fabric. It is on fold, remember. Seven inches. You roll it down, and the first thing you have to consider is this up part. So you remember we came up with 4 inches when we were drafting our off-shoulder princess dots. So that 4 inches, you have to consider it on your sleeve. So the first thing you have to do is to come down by 1 inch on this your fabric that is already on fold. So then on that 1 inch, you now get that 4 inches by placing your tape this way. So you mark where you get your 4 inches. You place your tape covering it like this. So having done that, the next thing is to connect it. You connect it to this end. Yeah. So now the next thing we have to do is to get our armhole. So, and for us to achieve that, what you do is that this is the front cut of our off-shoulder princess darts. So we have joined this darts place now. I've used pin to hold this. So you will have, gum your stay, the ear stay, the wardrobe, whatever you want to put here, you will have done that. Then you have joined your, the darts together. So now, this is the front cut, this is the back cut, one side of the back cut. So we have joined the side together. This is the side of our dress. We have joined it together. So this is the armhole. So all we need to do is to measure what we are having here now. Measure it around what you are having in your armhole. We are having 9.5. So that 9.5, you will have to, you have to divide it into 2 because you are going to cut your sleeve on fold. When you divide 9.5 by 2, it gives us a 4 3/4. Then you add half an inch seam allowance to that 4 3/4, giving us a 5 1/4. So it is that 5 1/4 we are going to get here now as our armhole. So you can see, you place your tape this way wherever you get your 5 1/4. I'm able to get my 5 1/4 here. I mark it. So then I now connect with my French cuff. I connect it to this end, just like this. So then I shape my sleeve down here. Everything we're having is 7 inches. I shape it by 1 to 1.5 inches. So let me use just 1 inch to shape it. So I connect it, then I cut it out. This is it. Having done this, so the next thing I'll do is to tape this part. I tape this part with bias, then I join this side by 1/2 inch. Then I join, after joining the side of my sleeve by 1/2 inch, this is my armhole now. Then I I join this part to this part of to the armhole of my dress. So, and the sleeve is ready. If you want to put a flare at the down part here, you are good to do that, or balloon, anything you want to put down here, or you can leave it just like this. I'm sure you have enjoyed this video. Thank you. See you next time.